known you for over 6 years now. And I've been privileged to watch you actually turn around businesses in Australian manufacturing, because there's a deep mindset in Australian manufacturing that we just can't compete as manufacturers on a global scale in Australia. You know, we've seen what happened to the car companies and the likes. They've all packed up and gone offshore. And it's created a deep-rooted mindset that you just can't be competitive on a global scale in manufacturing. I know, Anthony, one of the plants that you had that I worked with you closely for a couple of years, everyone said, shut the gates, you're dreaming. You can't compete. Your costs are currently 3 times higher than China, and they've got a quicker lead time than you. Shut the gates. But you were adamant that you could compete against China. You went on that journey. You not only come out the other side of the journey shining, it's led to the Chinese actually now come out to Australia to see what the bloody hell you've done with your plants in Australia, because your conversion costs are now cheaper than China. You've reduced them by a factor of 3. But not only that, your safety record and your quality actually is better than China as well. So, Anthony, I'd like to hear a bit about your story. You know, like a lot of people say, really? You're manufacturing in Australia and you're distinct? So, Anthony, just linking a few things maybe we've spoke about today, would you mind sharing your story with us? How did you do it, and what did you do to prove that manufacturing can actually still thrive in Australia?
Thanks, Luke, and thanks for the introduction, and great to be here. I think the standout thing for me was to realize that the people who actually do a job know more about the job than anyone else will. So for me to kind of come in and say, I know how to fix it, is foolish. I think the answer is in the people, because they do the job every day. And really the important thing was to get them to understand that it's up to them to really think through, how could we run it better? How could we make manufacturing in Australia successful? How could we make that plant that was in Coffs Harbour, I think is the one you're talking about, successful? And the important thing for them is, you know, it's not that easy to get a job in Coffs Harbour. If we lose this plant, we lose our jobs. There's pretty hard to find something else. So it's important that we do something here. The challenge, though, is that in the past, if they'd spoken up, they were not listened to. And so eventually they stopped suggesting ways to make improvements. And I can remember there was one particular individual that was nicknamed Bluey, a giant of a man. He used to turn up at work and say absolutely nothing, do exactly what he was told and go home. And, you know, grunt once or twice during the day. And slowly, by convincing him that he could talk up, that he could give us his opinion and it was valued, and he could suggest ways that his job could change to be and improved, he started talking. And it was through the Blue Bus training that sort of opened him up to talking. And I think that what he said eventually is not only did it change his work life, but it changed his home life. So it's holistic. It's not just one thing or the other. It changed his ability to talk up and actually give his opinion, and for people to listen to him, and for him to be validated, for him to have the connections with people so he could talk. And I guess for him to be in control of the work that he did, he stopped turning up every morning and he started, you know, bringing his brain to work. And in a way, before he'd been told to leave his brain at the gate and do what he was told. And so people like Bluey made the change, not me. What I did was made sure that Bluey was in a safe place where he could speak up. And also, no ideas were bad ideas. You know, we talk in the Blue Bus about excellent failure. So if you suggest something that doesn't turn out to be a good idea, that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. So that's called an excellent failure. And so that's really, really, really important, that it came from the people, and the success of the place, the cost structure changed, the productivity improved massively, not because of what I did, but because of what the people in the plant did. And so, you know, my sense is manufacturing will be successful because people in Australia are smart and they love being given that opportunity to control their destiny. And if you give that to them, you know, they help you, they'll help make the place successful. So, you know, they made Coffs the success it was. And what you've got to do is be consistent. So, you know, through thick and thin, through good times and bad, through the months where we weren't profitable, you don't lose your way and say, no, I've got to go down there and micromanage and get involved and, you know, get on the red bus, because that's not going to work. You've got to maintain that blue bus. You've got to keep listening. And it sometimes takes us a little longer. So I hope that gives you some insight into the cultural change driving the business improvement.